Welcome to the Tactical Dad podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Cook, and I am the Tactical Dad. In this episode 57, we are going to talk how long does a rifle scope hold zero? How long does a sight or scope hold zero? And also, why does it lose it in the first place? This is interesting. I got asked this question this past weekend at one of the gun shows of the South. A guy was inquiring about our Reflex Red Dot sight, and he was with his buddy, and he was looking for sort of an entry-level basic Reflex Red Dot to put on his AR, and he asked me the question, how long does this hold zero? And to start with, what does holding zero actually mean? And holding zero refers to the ability of a scope, or the scope you're looking at, to maintain its point of aim, or the point where the crosshairs are aligned after being adjusted or zeroed in. If you've been listening to any of the previous podcasts, we did discuss zeroing a scope and what is zeroing scope, and so if you've listened to that, this should help and bring back some memories. But once a scope is zeroed in, it should hold zero and maintain that alignment, which when a rifle scope is zeroed in, it is adjusted so that the point of impact, where the bullet actually hits, matches the point of aim. So once your scope is zeroed in, it should hold zero and maintain that alignment, allowing you, if you're the shooter that is, to accurately aim at a target without the need for constantly readjusting, because that just sounds like a pain in the ass. If a scope doesn't hold zero, it means that the point of aim and the point of impact are no longer aligned, and you, if you're the shooter, will need to adjust before taking another shot. So just one big pain in the rear end. So that's one of the reasons why it's handy and why it's a good thing to buy a scope of good quality, because if it's made out of crappy, shoddy materials and it's put together poorly, even if it's mounted onto your rail properly, it's after a shot. If you've ever seen a gunfire, which I imagine you have, that's a very ballistic action right there, right? So it's not going to hold zero, because that if it's not made out of good materials and it's not good, the construct, it's not put together properly, then you're gonna have to readjust after every shot, and that's just, who wants to do that? If you're in a difficult situation where you're in need of defending your home or your family, you can't do that. You ain't got the time. So this gentleman asked me, how long does your scope hold zero? And it didn't have a clear answer for him. So we're going to be doing some deep testing with our own scope and see exactly what it is. How many? I don't know how we'll do it, but we'll look into how we can really test this accurately. But the quality of our scope is that of the I can't remember the Bushnell, one of the Bushnells. I can't remember. But it's a very good question. How long does it hold zero? And in short, the answer was as long as a $50 scope should hold zero. So quite a while, unless if it's well maintained and looked after. If it's not like dropped and banged around. If the sight is just on the rail and you're just using it when you're shooting, and then you're very careful in where you put it away and how you put it away, it's not getting banged around or anything, then a very long time, like years, decades. If you're running, jumping, you've got it on your sling, you're throwing it over your back, you're throwing it here, there, you're doing lots of tactical stuff, shooting, and you're throwing it in your bag and throwing it in the back of the car or in the back of the truck, whatever, then it's taking a little bit of a beating. So I would, every few months check it. just double check it, because it's getting some wear and tear. So that's ours. And just in general, a rifle scope can hold zero for a very long time, years, and or even decades, like I just mentioned ours would, if you look after it like I suggested. But if you're not, if it's getting thrown around and banged around and it's been bumped and knocked around like that, then potentially not very long, a few months. Now, if you've got a really, this is where you got to be careful, because I've seen some scopes at like $20, $30, and they're discounting, for, like that's the retail price, and they're discounting them 20, 30, 40%. So super cheap. They're probably not great, and you would most likely have to zero it in after just shooting it, no, regardless of how well you mounted it. So it's literally losing zero. It's losing the work you've done zeroing it in, just from actually using it in a very non-threatening, non-wild way. So which is not good, which is poor. A rifle scope should hold zero for a very long time if you're handling it very well. All right, that's it for today. I just wanted to touch on a good question that somebody asked me on how long does your sight or scope hold zero for, and I thought it was good to mention just all around when you're shopping for especially a reflex red dot tube style scope. If you've checked ours out, or if you just don't want to go with ours, just make sure you consider how long your scope should be zeroed in, no matter who you go with for your scope. Hope that's good information. Hope that helps. Thanks for joining me today. I will see you and speak to you again in another episode.